and I really don't even know where in the world we were at as far as what I was speaking about. So, uh,
Do you want me to pick it up here?
yeah, why
Okay.
don't you pick it
Okay.
up and then we can maybe go into some questions and we can sort of find out if there's something we've missed.
Yeah, if you have questions for Ortrun, please post them and we'll get to them, okay? December's not only been a fascinating month, but the whole year. The news this year has been horrendously horrible with the virus and with the election and anyway, there's been more bad news on the public media this year than any year that I can remember. And people and the commentators are saying, we'll be glad when 2020 is over because it's been such, so many bad things have been happening.
Carl and Ortrun, try refreshing your page. Carl and Ortrun, if you can hear me, try refreshing your page.
Let me reach out, love and touch you. Let me hold you for a while. I've been all around the world. Oh, how I long to see you smile. There's a shadow on the moon and the waters here below do not shine the way they should. And I love you just in case you didn't know. Let it go. Let it happen like it happened once before. It's a wicked wind and it chills me to the bone. And if you do not believe me, come and gaze upon the shadow at your door. Won't you lie down by me, baby, run your fingers through my hands. I've been all around the town and still I
Hi, Carl and Ortrun. We still do not have your video. Can you turn the camera on?
And stream.
You know where that gear is? Right next to your name over top of the picture?
This thing.
Try refreshing your page.
Okay.
There you are. Okay. I'm dropping out.
Pull it down a little bit.
Camera down a little. There you go.
What's
I'm dropping out.
okay? Huh.
You're back on. We're live. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? You are back on. You are live. Can you hear me?
Okay.
Can you hear me now? Carl and Ortrun, can you hear me now? You are back on live. We are live. Please say something. Can you hear me?
Can you hear us,
Yes, I
Rob?
can hear you. Can you hear me? I can hear you.
We can see ourselves, but we can't see anything
I can
else.
hear you. Can you hear me?
Just do this thing.
Can you hear me? Please confirm. Can anybody hear anything?
Can you
Now,
hearing us or you're hearing Rob?
can you hear me? Can you hear me? Ortrun, can you hear me? Okay, they can hear you. Please talk.
Great. Okay, great. Appreciate it. Thank you.
What did you just say?
Lynn can hear both of us, so she can hear us and she can hear Rob also.
Oh,
Okay.
You're live.
Okay.
Keep talking.
So
Can you hear
Rob,
me?
do you want us just to get going? Should
Can
we just
you hear
continue
me?
talking then?
Can you hear
There's a
me?
little sign here somewhere.
Can you
There
hear
it-
me? You're live.
No.
You're here. Talk. I can hear you.
I'm muted.
God.
Okay. I just unmuted it. So okay, so Carl, why don't you just talk? Because everybody
Okay.
seems to be able to hear us, but we don't know what's going on.
I'm sorry about all this technical
Right, and I
difficulty.
think our camera went out. Our good camera. So that's why we're look a little different now. Okay, Carl.
Well, anyway,
Sorry.
2020 has been one of the most unusual, and I'm going to say significant years in much throughout our much of our history. And there is so much good news that you did not read in the public press because they simply aren't aware of it. They don't follow things like this. For example, the Earth this year moved from the high fourth dimension into the low level of the fifth dimension. Along with that, the Earth and humanity moved from the Piscean age into the Aquarian age. And they felt that the conjunction of Saturn and what's the other one? Jupiter is the point at which that happened. And with those planets being so close together, they both being the two largest planets in our solar system, the energy that was coming to the Earth from them joined together into one beam of energy. It doesn't mean that it was twice the energy, but rather it was the energy was squared. So we received 4 times the amount of energy we would receive from them separately. So the tremendous boost in energy with the on December 21st, which is also a significant day. It's the winter solstice. So we had that going, and the energy has been coming into the Earth throughout the year from other planets and stars throughout our galaxy. And we've received more energy this year than we have ever received in any single year, probably in the history of the planet. So it was a tremendous year in terms of energy and the effect that it had on the human race. Let me give you some statistics here. Of the children that were born in 2020, 12% of them carried third dimensional energy. 60% carried fourth dimensional energy, which is the basic energy that light workers carry. And 28% were carrying fifth dimensional energy. I've not seen any time where children were coming in with fifth dimensional energy. This is something brand new. And also, this year, 92% of the Dark Lords were removed from the astral plane, which is a plane between the earth and the heaven. It's where people go who choose not to go into heaven. And of the people that the Dark Lords, and they're the ones that rule, if you will, the astral plane, of the number of Dark Lords that were there at the beginning of this year, 92% of them have been removed from our solar system. Only 8% remain. And of the Dark Lords that are on the earth, 80% of them have been removed this year. And that's one of the things that I work on, and I'm sure there are hundreds of other people that work on it. But the frequency of the earth has increased to the point that they're no longer comfortable here. It's becoming painful for them to be here. So they're looking to leave. And they apparently they need some help doing that. So anyway, we've gotten rid of the vast majority of Dark Lords who greatly impact not only the astral plane, but also the earth plane. The 8% that are there, or the 20% that are still on the earth, still are in control of our media and still control basically our financial systems. But this year, 2020, is going to be, I think, remembered in history as a year of the great cleansing, when so much that was negative was removed. Now, another thing that happened this year is the Earth's vibration has significantly increased. We know that from 42 to 1987, the vibration was 7.8 hertz. And we know that in 87, it began to increase. And it increased, it goes up slowly at first, but the rate of increase is really, really speeded up. From 7.8 hertz in 1987, by 2019, it was up to 76 hertz. This year, it exceeded 100 hertz. Now, that's the frequency of the planet, and that's one of the indications that, yes, the Earth is now viewed by beings that do not live on the Earth as a fifth dimensional planet of light. This is brand new. This just happened this year. So just a very, very significant event. And as you can see, this is all very, very good news. Okay, also.
Is that in hertz? Is that in hertz you're talking about?
Yes, it's in hertz, correct. Thank you. The Earth's population, there are all 7.5 billion of us. At the beginning of the year, about 41% of the population was living primarily during their awake time in the third dimension. By the end of this year, it was down to 35%. There is a 6% difference between 6% fewer people living in the third dimension now than back in January. And then 54% were living in the fourth dimension. That's down to 50%. And in the fifth dimension, holy mackerel, it went from 5% in January to 15% living in the fifth dimension now. That's a 300% increase in 1 year. So with these higher dimensional children being born, and with the getting rid of the dark lords, and the energy of the human population is shifting upward at an unprecedented rate of speed. And when I say this is the year that's going to be noted in history as a year of cleansing, what that allows then is for next year to be the year in which we start rebuilding. And I think next year you're going to see, I don't know, many announcements of some of the dastardly things that have been going on economically, culturally, morally, etc., that are coming that have very low vibrations. And you're going to hear them being exposed and brought to the light where they can be cleansed. And you're going to hear about things that are being done that are going to dramatically improve the life of the earth and the life of humans on the earth. So this is a year of cleansing. Next year is a year of rebuilding. Okay. That's about it for, well, anyway, it's all good news. And it is good news that will have an ongoing, lasting effect. And it is good news that is setting a trend, and that trend will continue. Those trends, I should say, will continue and most likely will increase in the coming year. So don't get caught up in all of the bad news that you know, that, hey, we've got this virus, we're restricted in our movements and in our contact with other people. That's not a pleasant thing, but that's temporary. That's going to end when the virus diminishes, and viruses have a limited life. And now with the vaccines that are coming out, that's going to limit it even more. And it is also some good news that's going to come out of that. There are now vaccines that are not yet available, but should be available, I would guess, within the next 5 years, that you would get once in your lifetime, and it would give you immunity against all flu-type viruses, including the coronavirus. So that's another thing that we will not have to go through every year. And the good news, in my mind, just so outweighs the negative news, and the presidential election and the virus and so on. Yes, we don't like to hear those things, but because they're temporary things, we're going to move beyond it. And in all likelihood, we will move beyond all of that next year. So we can endure. We can put up with this for a matter of, well, really probably a year or maybe 15 or up to 18 months. And then we're going to be past it. But all of these other things that I mentioned will not only still be here, they'll have grown in the meantime. So we have a lot to be thankful for this year. And I'm going to suggest, don't focus your attention on what's wrong, because when you do that, you give it power. But rather focus on that is good, that has happened, that is happening, that you want to happen. Because what you focus your attention on, you empower and help to bring into being. And you are a very, very powerful being. And our collective energy, wow, there's nothing that can stand against that. So be part of the solution here, be part of the ascension process. And as you do that, everybody benefits. Have you got anything, Ortrun?
Well, I've got a few different things. First and foremost, when you're talking about these 100 hertz, you're talking about spikes?
Okay, the way the Schumann resonance, as it's called, the frequency of the Earth is measured. They measure the top of the spikes, and it's measured every 10 minutes. And Russia is the one that puts out a publication really every day of the hertz. And so yes, but as the spikes go higher, the lower frequencies also go higher. So the overall trend has been very much upward, from 7.8 to over 100. What is that? A 1,200% increase in frequency since 1987, and what is that? 35 years. So
1987?
yeah. Anyway, it's the increase is just unreal, considering that the point from 42 when they started to measure it to 87, it hadn't moved at all. It up or down a very, very little. It was basically steady for those 45 years. And here in these 35 years, it's gone up 1,200%. Wow, baby, that's pretty great.
But what's the average? I mean, okay, it's spiking.
They don't measure the average. They measure just the top of the spikes.
But
if you look at it in a graph, it'll be very, very pointy.
Yes, but what did you say with the Schumann resonance at one time was like
7.8 hertz.
Right, and that was, when was that?
That was 42 to 1987.
1942 to 1987?
Yes.
Okay, and now you're saying it is, you had measured it 100?
It's over 100. They have measured it over 100 this year. It's not steady at that, but that's the highest spike that yes, the highest spike they've recorded this year.
Okay, because my understanding was that 7.6, that was like the average spike.
No, that was it. It only ranged between 7.7 and 7.9. So there was very little.
Very little. Okay.
Very, very.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So
the higher frequency then is attracting more evolved beings to the planet. Thus, we're getting more evolved children in, and it's allowing people that are here. The percentage of people that are coming in that are of higher frequency is increasing dramatically, and has been ever since for about the last 85 years. It used to be only 1% of our people had advanced DNA, whereas now the people that coming in is somewhere between 65% and 100%, depending upon who you ask. But it's increased dramatically, and that's only possible because the planet is attracting these higher evolved beings, because it itself is at a higher frequency, and thus they can be here and be comfortable.
Okay.
All right.
First and foremost, please, if you have any questions, please enter them in the chat room, or we'd love to have you be part of this conversation if you'd like to be. So I think that when we got cut off. I think I was starting to talk a little bit about the whole Aquarian age. I don't know how much of that I said, so I'm going to back up a little bit on that, because I know that one of the things that has been announced, that this is really the time of the dawning of the age of Aquarius. You know, we've heard about that for years. In 1967, you know, the song "Age of Aquarius" became popular, and it's a time of, you know, love, peace, joy, all these different beautiful, beautiful things were to happen, you know, on our planet, in and on our planet. And then, you know, it was really picked up with the New Age movement. You know, we kept moving and moving, you know, more and more into this whole concept that this is really a possibility. I was saying earlier, and I don't know if I'm repeating myself, so please forgive me if I am, but I remember doing a seminar down in Florida. It must have been in really early 2000. We moved to, let's see, probably around 2007, a little bit further into that. Maybe it was already 2012. It could very well have been, or at least we were really talking about 2012. And I was reading something about the age of Aquarius, and, you know, and the song where it talked about the alignment, you know, of when the moon is in the 7th house and Jupiter aligns with Mars. So I decided to just check into that a little bit, just to see how dates looked, as far as when you look at, you know, a table to see when the different ones align. But in 1967, that song came out. That there was a message there. I remember when we were doing this seminar, like I said, it might have been around 2011, maybe 2010, but very much there was another surge that was coming in, really speaking about the Aquarian age. And what it was saying is that the alignment basically was the same, except it was in a different quadrant. And they said that the one in the 60s, you know, one that was coming out, that song was coming out, that was actually the ancestor. They were echoing to us. They were telling us this age is coming, this age of peace, of love and joy. It is coming. So start preparing for it. And there were some that listened. And really, that is how the whole, I'm going to say, hippie movement began. They were about love and peace and joy and freedom. So those are all the messages that were starting to come into the forefront, into our consciousness also, through this from that point on. So but then when we were speaking in early, well, like I said, around 2010, 2011, I remember reading that it was the same configuration, but now it was in a different quadrant. So the west would represent the older quadrant, because it's the darkness, it's the moon sign, it's where the sun sets. So the ancestors were resonating this message. And then in early 2010, 11, 12, we started to get this message. Now is the time for this to happen. Now is the time for this. You know, okay, you know it was coming. Now is the time. And then 2012 was really considered to be the beginning of the age of Aquarius, right?
Yes.
Carl?
Well,
okay.
We were moving into that energy field, and it's not
More
an instant line there. It's something you move into gradually.
Mm-hmm.
But it's felt that on our December 21st this year is when that's the official beginning of the age of Aquarius.
Well, you know, and I researched that a little bit also, and it said it's really hard to determine when the age of Aquarius is, because depending on what calendar you're using and all kinds of different combinations. But we know that it's usually about 2150 years to go from age to age. And what I did find what was interesting is usually with the March equinox, these changeovers take place. So the moving from the Piscean age into the Aquarian age, it happened in March. And again, this depends on what calendar you're using, but it's really hard to determine when it can be, and it can be years and years apart that this actually happens.
My understanding is that it takes about 150 years to complete a transition from one age to another age. And we started moving into just the very faint outskirts of the Aquarian energy back in the mid 1930s, and will not be in it completely until 2100 and the mid 2180s. Okay.
Well, what I read was, which
Okay.
I thought was interesting, was that we were saying it started, let's say 2012. And this was saying that in March of 2123. So is when we were really going to be more. And as Carl said, it's going to take a while. It's going to take a while. It's take about 100. How many years? 150 years.
About 150 years.
Right, and that's about what we have here. It's not that far off if you stop and think about that. That's 123 plus 55 years. So so that's pretty close. And thank you, Rob. I see you're saying this astrological age is defined as the sign rising on the spring equinox. Yes, and that's what they were defining it as too. That's when the ages shift. So by 2123, we should really be thriving more so in that age of love, peace, joy, understanding. I think that this year, everything, has been brought up. I don't know whether everything will be wiped out in a year. It may take longer than that because we're seeing all these big issues.
Well, yes,
we can't resolve them all in one year.
Right.
But these are all things we're working at. We're going to be picking at them and moving them away and getting them out of the consciousness of everyone that's here upon our planet. Yeah. So what, again, we are experiencing that ourselves with the different things that we're experiencing within ourselves during this time frame as to the things that we feel in our bodies, physical, mental, emotional, right, Carol?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. So this is really an amazing time for sure, and so we are in a time right now where we are just resetting everything, world affairs, everything, the governments, the religions, the social,
the economies, the currencies, yes.
Right. So
I think we're going to experience a lot of continued turmoil as we go through the 20s. And by the mid 30s, I expect we're going to be, maybe 80%, 85% in the fifth dimension in terms of our institutions and governments and economies and so on. But you have to get rid of the old in order to bring in the new. And getting rid of the old, please don't go into fear. Celebrate the demise, because if it's third dimensional, it can't exist in the fifth dimension. And as long as it's here, it's retarding the advent or the full coming of the fifth dimension. So focus your attention on creating the world you want to live in. And it is described as what we're going to be creating here is heaven on earth. Okay. And information that I've been given, I do a lot of work on the spirit realm, and the lower parts of heaven have been removed to another planet because the earth was getting too close to it. And the higher ends of heaven have been expanded because people in the heavenly realm who are also growing, but at a slower rate than we are needed that. They were reaching the highest point they could reach in the heavenly realm. And now when these people reincarnate back here on our fifth dimensional earth, they're going to be bringing in some pretty neat stuff and ideas and concepts and energy. So that again is going to exhilarate this whole process. So we're in the process of creating a new cycle on a much higher level of consciousness. And I'm sorry, I'm not going to be here to enjoy that much of it, but I think that I am doing what I'm here to do in terms of preparing the human race and the earth for it. So I'm looking forward to coming back another time too. and being able to enjoy more of it then. But,
Well, what's interesting is that we're moving, third, fourth, and fifth dimension. And, I do numerology also. That's another one of my things that I have in my pocket. That's one of my little gears. And three is the third dimension, which we're living on right now. The number three really represents lots of creativity. And really look at our planet, what it has done, during the third dimensional period of time, and the things that we've learned, and how the things have speeded up, and how much more we are learning, and how creative people are, becoming. Not just, it's no longer the creativity is seen as in music and performing. It's in computers. Look at the creativity that has come not only into when you consider creativity, you think of more the right brain, but even left brain thinking, the creativity that has grown
yeah.
over this period of time, this third dimension.
I'm just wondering, are there any questions from any of you, or any comments, any reactions here? Would love to hear from you if you have something that you want to be clarified or contribute. So please feel free to type it in the chat room, and Rob then we can deal with what you're interested in.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, in the meantime, I'm going to continue talking about these different dimensions. So that we're working through that fourth dimension, and in numerology, the number 4 basically has to deal with grounding, with balance, with having a solid foundation. So I find that interesting too, because of what we're going through. We're dealing with fourth dimensional things. We're shifting. We're moving out of those different things that we no longer need, the different vibratory frequencies, and so that we can stabilize and have the solid foundation before we step into that fifth dimension. And fifth dimension, this is the simplest of numerology, but it's 5 is freedom. It can be, in the good level, and the good. I mean, it can be, if you're utilizing your freedom, it will be a beautiful thing. Certainly, you can go downhill with if you choose that. But all in all, it's a freedom number. It's for us to become free. But in order to become free ourselves, we need to look at everything and clear up what there is, have that solid foundation before us, and then we step into that higher vibratory frequency. And Deborah, she has something here for us. With the earth in a higher vibration, is it possible for healing the earth and us being able to help her cleanse, if that makes sense?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank
you, Deborah.
The third dimension is a dimension of fear, greed, limitation, and it is those things that have helped develop the human consciousness that's polluted the earth. The fifth dimensional level of consciousness is based on love, at one-ment, and cooperation, working together. And it is that spirit that is going to very much make, I think, fairly short work of cleaning up the environment, not the soil, the water, the air. And right now, the earth is going through a transitional time because it's wobbling in its axis. And this can preclude or predict a shift of the magnetic poles, a reversal. The North Pole becomes the South, and the South the North. It can also predict the passage of another heavenly body, and it is also, this wobble in the Earth's orbit is bringing about the erratic weather, extreme weather extremes, both hot and cold at the same time on different parts of the planet, or even on the same part. The southern hemisphere right now is getting an unprecedented amount of summer snow. All right. And here, at least in Michigan, my goodness, the water's still, the lakes aren't frozen yet. And here it is, the end of December. So that is happening. But yes, the human consciousness is going to be focused more on healing the planet. And the shift is taking in human consciousness. The service to self people are leaving, and they will not be coming back. When they reincarnate, it will not be on a fifth dimensional planet unless they have made tremendous change. The people that are coming are service to others. And the people that we call the light workers, are service to others. And these are the people that are concerned not so much about themselves, but about other people, about the planet, about the welfare of the human race. So that is happening, and that's going to be speeded up. Thank you. Any other comments or questions here?
I feel like we've really covered a large gamut of things tonight, even though we had a little bit of a difficult time, in that one part of the show. So what do you think is going to be happening in 2020? Okay, we have something else here, so let's see what's happening there. Okay, it's saying, loving this talk. So interesting to hear about the time when the transition into higher dimension of Age of Aquarius will be complete. So inspiring.
Okay, as Ortrun said, an age is about 2,150 years. So we're going to be in it a long time now. If you can project what we've accomplished here in the last 10 years, how much have you changed in the last 10, 15 years? And now project 2,100 years. And it's really fantastic. The human DNA has 60 codons. And the people that are coming in from higher dimensions and more evolved have 21 and very few of 22 active codons. But each strand of DNA has 60 codons. So even the most highly people on the earth are just 1/3 of their potential has been developed. And I don't know how much more of that we're going to develop in the Aquarian age, but I think a fair amount. So it's going to be just an extraordinarily exciting couple thousand of years ahead of us as we go through this age.
Why have so many souls left the earth this year?
Part of that is the cleansing. And part of that is they've completed their reason for being here. And they fulfilled their life script, and they've reached their final exit point. And I expect that trend will continue even after the virus is gone, because people who are service to self are not going to be able to, it'll be harder for them to stay healthy here because they will not be in harmony with the planet. Third dimensional consciousness will become uncomfortable on a fifth dimensional planet. And that's going to increase as more and more people are moving into the high fourth and the low fifth dimensions of consciousness. They're not going to fit in socially or economically either. So I expect that there will be an increasing death rate. My understanding is that when we're through this whole ascension, the Earth's population will be about 3 billion or maybe 3.5 billion. So it'll be less than half of what it is right now. Anything else here?
I don't know.
Well, according to the clock, we're out of time. And thank you for your patience and bearing with us through technical difficulties. And I hope that you're leaving feeling the number one, empowered, because you are the ones that are going to create this fifth dimensional Earth. And number two, more optimistic about what is happening and not getting so caught up in all of the bad news that is simply temporary. It's the news of what is leaving. So we don't need to feed it, or we're going to feed that we want.
Well, I just want to say that one of our teachers, way back when, he said, not to get caught up into the what you're seeing out here and what's on the news, and we've heard that quite a bit, And and he said, and I think it's really a good thing, is he said, so if you're going to watch the news, send divine, radiant light and love to that station, to the people that are in there, or the situation they're speaking about, because that's going to help to transmute the energy vibration of what they're speaking about. And so we can be even helpful in that manner if you're someone that likes to watch news sometimes. But yes, don't get pulled into anything. If you're starting to get pulled, become very, very self-aware of your thinking so that you can change it over into a space of light and love. So anything you might be fearing, when you recognize there's something going on, switch your thought into, thank you for this lesson. Thank you for what I'm learning by going through this. So always flip it over so that you're focusing on light, love, peace, and joy. The more and more that we do that, the quicker we're going to get into that space of true fifth dimensional living.
Hey, would like to conclude this by wishing you
there is one thought here. Sarah's asking, any wisdom for us that are working with the COVID patients? Okay. Cindy says yes. So go ahead. What?
I would say be upbeat, be hopeful, encourage them. And if you are of such a mind, call in the healing angels to work with them, that their highest good might be realized. And if the devas, which are nature spirits that work within our body, and we all have many of them, and call in the devas that work with whatever part of the body has been negatively affected, and ask them to call in energy from the angels that they're working for. They have the ability then to install the energy coming in from the angels into that organ or that part of the body. So those are a couple of suggestions that might help.
Okay, I have another thing that I'd like to mention, is that I've worked with individuals, that are nurses and that work in the hospitals and so on. And one of the things that I have told them, and this is what I told them years ago, but I think it's something to really think about again, is first and foremost, to surround yourself with divine protection before you ever walk into the place. If you're working with anyone in the hospitals, and then fill every room with divine, radiant light and love. Mm-hmm. And when you're starting to think, I'm so frustrated, think of light, love, peace, and joy continuously, and radiate that divine, radiant light and love. And then in the evening, if you're not too exhausted, or send light and love to those places, all those creeks and crevices throughout the whole planet. And in the morning, before you get up, this you can do for yourself, but also for everyone else. See yourself walking through that day in balance with all of your divine ones, helping you walk through life. And so that when you are in those situations, that this light is just pulsating from you and through you, touching everyone that you meet. So, Cindy, I'm just wondering, Cindy Ferris, do you have a message that you recorded that we're supposed to be listening to? Is there anything we can do with that, Rob? Can you see her there, Cindy Ferris? It looks like there's can I put
we're at 5 after the hour. We're at 5 after the hour.
Well, I can't do anything. Okay. Maybe
can you hear me,
indicating it's from YouTube. I don't know.
Ortrun, can you hear me?
Well, anyhow, Sarah and Cindy.
Ortrun, can you hear me?
Min and
Ortrun,
Barbara.
can you hear me?
Yes, that's right, Barbara. Thank you so much for sharing that. Adding names to any prayer list. As a matter of fact, that's another thing that I do, is I have a cloud that I place people into, because I can't remember all their names. None of us can. But maybe have a cloud where you're placing all of these.
Ortrun, can you hear me?
That
Ortrun, can you hear me?
Are ill or even your hospitals. Put them in this cloud and.
Ortrun, please, can you hear me? We need to wrap this up.
Remember everyone's name or anything. It's just blitzing that with light all the time. Maybe when you're in your meditation. So there are many little ways that we can help in that manner, and it's so appreciated. And we may not see the results right away, but really and truly know that anything that you do of that nature, it is of most importance
Yes.
and of greatest assistance.
Well, we're over time, and I thank you all for contributing, for being here, and want to wish you a most blessed and prosperous and healthy new year.
Blessings to all of you, and we will see you next month.
Yes, yes.
Thank you again for joining us and everyone that will be listening to this.
Thank you, and
later.
thank you, Rob, for engineering this whole program. And hey, send healing energy to, or just peace and so on, to Neshi and her husband Paul, and to Paul's mother.
Yeah.
Thank you. Bye-bye all.
Bye-bye now.